board members want to entertain anything about the budget, cuts that were made. So, everybody feel free to discuss. Huh?
I just think for that.
Okay. Alright, so Matt had sent us an email that he had, done some digging and work with, I believe it's, Ms. Morse from the bus company, saying that they will not have to stagger because they're available to cut 2 buses, plain and simple, without staggering, the school times, which I know is a huge concern to the community, because it wasn't gonna work. And so I wanna apologize because I feel like I voted for it and I rushed into it. And I'm just glad that that's something that we don't have to deal with. So, I don't know if there's a motion on the table to do that, or if you wanna consider anything else with the budget while it's open. I know a lot of people came here probably to talk about the staggering schedules, against it, I'm assuming, the community anyway.
Well, I think they already know that something happened before they understand, so I'm not sure if that's one. You did? No.
Are you a teacher or?
Oh, staff.
now?
Okay, I'm sorry.
And you're not, you're a parent, okay, so parents get anything, you know?
Okay, so.
So Matt, what, so we had the motion on the table last meeting, for that, so we can get down to the $320,000. Do we just need to make an amendment to that, proposal and then vote to accept that budget proposal, or like, in terms of legalities, how do we go ahead and accept?
I think it's probably best to motion to reconsider the budget, vote on that, and then make another motion on whatever change you wanna make. I do wanna note that, so we've done a lot of work with first student as far as how we can adjust those schedules, and there will be an effect with the 2 bus reductions. That does mean that some of the routes will be a little bit longer and there'll be more students on the bus, but we feel, and it sounds like the community probably agrees that that's a better option than the alternative, which was that staggered start. So I just wanna make sure it's not, there are some, effects to that
How much
change.
longer? I don't wanna keep kids on the bus, for the bus driver's sake, and for the kids, any longer than we have to.
Yeah, our goal
And
is,
how crowded.
our goal is to keep all routes under an hour. That's always what our goal is, and we feel that all the routes will be under that threshold. When we say longer, maybe 7 minutes longer, like going from 45-minute route to a 52-minute route, that type of change. What we would consider relatively minimal, but there is a change, right?
And this is all worked out with Ms. Moore so that we're not gonna be told, September, that, this isn't gonna work, we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, so she's pretty confident because it's not an exact science. When you look at because we have routing software, and that looks at kind of the maximum number of students, like essentially every student that we have in school taking the bus. But we all know that that's not reality, right? We have a large percentage of kids that get dropped off from their parents. So there's a little bit of art in the equation. She's pretty she's confident based on that ridership level of the percentage of students that get rides, that it's definitely, or she's comfortable with that.
Okay.
Now, can I guarantee you that that there'll be no hiccups, right? If we have an influx of if we end up having 30 more students next year in enrollment than what we're anticipating, then that could make a change, something like that. But that's kind of unknown, and I don't, based on our enrollment projections and how we've been tracking enrollment-wise, I don't anticipate that we will see an uptick in enrollment. We've actually seen a decline, which is helping us, because that's also factored in,
Right.
is based on our enrollments decreases.
Now, will the contract that we're in now, our 5-year contract, will we have to change that?
No, it doesn't affect the contract. So we have the ability per the contract to increase the number of buses or reduce the number of buses. And it's on a per bus cost basis. So for instance, this year we haven't had full bus routes every day because we've had driver shortages. So that's resulted in less bus routes, and we will be credited for every day that those bus routes haven't been
And that
running.
credit goes into the general fund?
Well, we have our transportation line item,
Right.
and that account, like when you look at our expenditure report, that will show that there's available balance. So some of the accounts are over budget, you'll see negative.
So it'll stay in
Balance.
transportation?
In that account, there'll be an increase in available.
But it'll stay in the line item of transportation, or because it's a bottom line budget, when it go into the general fund? And
We
the
don't
extra-
do budget transfers, but
Okay.
at the end of the year, when we close our books, there's a certain amount of money that's left over, and that constitutes the available balance. We also have on the revenue side, if we have excess revenue than what we had estimated to the Department of Revenue, the combination of those two numbers represent the unreserved fund balance. So that's the kind of what's left over at the end of the school year. At that point, those funds, now when I say those funds go, I don't mean we're writing a check and it goes somewhere. It's all tax setting, but it goes back to the town to offset tax assessment for the following year.
I'm gonna figure out how to spend that on the school before it goes back to the town one of these days. Cause and that's not a conversation, I probably should have said that, but I think there's a lot we could do here with a little bit more, so, alright.
That's a great question. I want to address that. That's a great little question. So, I've been opening to jump in on. So, when we do have when we're projecting towards the end of the year, we have some available funds, that, there are certain things we really can't from a audit perspective, purchase certain items. However, in some cases, it's a great opportunity to make some purchases, but that's a board decision because whether you want to make an investment or return those funds back to the town. But like in a year like this year, when we're making cuts for next year, like in our books and supplies accounts and furniture, it might, maybe we make some purchases in furniture because we cut that account entirely.
Let's look at that, cause that's coming up, so.
It's a good opportunity.
Think about it. What do our kids need? So, alright, so a budget to reconsider the vote. Sure.
Okay, where are we right now for spending for buses? Where are we at? For this year?
Well, when we look at the expenditure, we're fully encumbered. However, that just means we had an open PO for the entire year, but in reality, we've been down,
Right, so what are we at right now? Because we just had a bunch of invoices to go through for the bus company. So for the contract for our student, how much are we at right now spending?
right, so we encumber for the entire year, so that's gonna show that we don't have available balance, but in reality, based on what we've been invoiced, we do have some available funds because we haven't had drivers.
Right, so how much are we
every-
invoiced?
I don't know the exact number, but I mean, I can look at the expenditure report and see what we've spent to date.
That'd be great.
But from a projection standpoint, through the end of, it's on board docs too, you can check out your expenditure report. We've expended $495,912 to date,
Alright, so,
but the encumbrance is larger than what was actually gonna, we'll probably be, maybe a little less than $100,000 under budget for this year. If we don't have bus drivers for the rest of the school year, and maybe closer to 80,000.
Can I ask a question, and I'm not trying to be rude, but why was this not looked into prior to, reaching out to us about doing something as, crucial as staggering times for the school?
So this has been an ongoing conversation that we've had with First Student, and we do this every year. We look at the routes and we do that analysis. We did that before the budget process back in the fall, when we were looking at budgeting for next year. And it's been a combination of, well, for one, unfortunately, we haven't had our local rep or our manager here this whole time. So we had a interim person in that role at First Student. So she didn't have, I don't think they had the full breadth of knowledge as far as like the actual ridership and how those look, kind of that more subjective viewpoint. But in any event, we've also seen some declines in enrollment, which has helped. And then this year we've seen less students being on the bus and being dropped off by parents. So that, with a combination of having some bus drivers down, we were able to kind of prove it out that can work. So it wasn't until this past week where First Student and ourselves felt comfortable in kind of drawing that line in the sand. Because the last thing we want is to cut a bus and then encounter and then not be able to transfer our kids to school. So we have to be certain.
Can I just excuse her just 1 second? Is there anybody have a chair around them that's experts? We have some people standing in the back. There's no chairs if you come around the corner here. There's some more chairs over there. You don't have to stand the whole time. Sorry about that. So, alright, so.
Okay, so I looked at the budget and it says for the average 3 years, 3-year average for 22-23, 22-23, 21-22, the average amount of money that we spent on buses was $6,000, but this is just the contract for First Student, $682,247. The year after that, the default budget was $742,181. We've had a decrease in enrollment, yet the budgeted amount is $855,356. My point is that I guess I'm confused on why we have to do any cuts when we've already created a default budget when we did the budget. At the beginning of the year, well, when we did the budget, we did the budget for 23, 24, 25, and then we did a default budget. So technically, there's really no reason for us to be cutting anything because we've already done a default budget. The only difference is that it appears as though we have to cut an additional 321, but we really don't because it's already cut in the default budget from the year before. Because if you scroll over to our default budget, it's the exact amount of money that we need to be at. The only difference is we're taking the money out of the lines that the budget, that the school board already allocated to, and what was already in place prior. So there actually is no reason to do any cuts on buses, staff, or anything. We already have a default budget.
So yeah, the default budget is a statutory number. It's not a real number. It's not. So when you're looking at how you calculate the default budget, it's the prior year's budget plus or minus any contractual or legally mandated items.
Right.
Then reduced by non-expenditures or reductions in force. So what that doesn't account for is, for example, health insurance for all of our non-union employees. So we are contractually obligated to provide health insurance for our employees. This year we had a 23.7% premium rate increase. Well, that increase is not included in the default budget, even though we are required to pay that health insurance rate because it wasn't previously approved. So our union employees, their health insurance increase was approved via a separate warrant article in the CBA. So that rate increase is in the default budget, but all of our non-union employees is not. Similarly, our bus transportation, there's an annual increase every year. there's a bigger increase this year because there was a new 5-year contract, that is not included in the fall budget. So we,
Right,
however,
but
we
it's
can,
still a lot more money than what we've used in an average of the last 3 years.
so the average in the last 3 years
Yeah.
constitutes the last 3 years, and there's been rate increases every year. So it's the same number of buses, but
Yeah.
the cost, it goes up every year, that's how the contract works. Further, we were able to recognize some savings like last year because, and this year, because we didn't run all of our routes, right? So we had some savings there. But there's a whole host of accounts here where we are obligated we're locked into contracts and we have to spend money, like our electricity, our natural gas, etc. But it's not included in the default budget as defined by statute.
So, I just wanna say one thing, and Kelly can continue to. My problem is, if you came to me, you came to this board, there's $80,000 to $100,000 right there that we earmarked and we're almost positive is going back anyways, and that to the general fund. Why, when we came to the board, instead of asking and saying, hey, you might have 80 or 100,000 to play with here, and you may only need to look for 50 to 70,000, instead of, boom, let's take something away from the kids and the bus, and we did everything that you asked us to do, because that's what we have you here for, right? You're the math magician. But, as a board member, it floors me that we know these monies are here, we didn't say anything. It takes a board member to bring it out, so from here on in, I'm asking for right up front, if there's money, I wanna know it, and if there isn't, then fine. But I'm still concerned to the caveat of how long the bus drivers are gonna have to stay on longer and the kids, because let's face it, we have major issues with, buses. The kids on the bus, things going on, so I don't know that I feel comfortable, if you're saying 7 minutes, but if it comes back and we see all these people here saying the kids are on the bus for an hour and a half every day, I'm not gonna be a happy camper. So unless we can make sure that's not the case, maybe we need to look elsewhere where we're gonna get that 50 to 70,000. Cause it's not, we don't need the 155,000.
Well, the
Projected.
savings that we're recognizing this year, we can't use for next year. That has to go back to offset tax assessment. And if we're projecting that same savings next year, that is this production, right? So that's reducing it, but it's the same exact thing.
I don't know, I just, if I'm new, but if I had time to go through page by page, I tell you, I've been looking, but I'm appreciative that you have, have done this, and, what are we gonna do as a board?
Well, I have, because I went to, first I was doing cuts. And, giving supplies and books, and you go and look at the budget, and there's about 15 or whatever line items that say supplies and books. That doesn't tell the board where you're making that cut, so it's impossible for us to do the math. So then I sent an email and I asked, what line item you're taking it out of? So then I pulled up the line item, and the line item, I was told, SAS cutting $35,000 was under contractual contract fees or other contract services, I'll find it. This is just an example of why I'm saying that, to me, nothing makes any sense to me. I'm not coming up with the same numbers. None of this is confidential, so it is okay to have other people look at it, and it didn't make any sense to them. And if you look under contracted services, it's I just have. Yeah, contracted services. So I was told that if we, it was $108,260, we cut $35,000 from SAS, I believe a balance of, it was like, I don't have the paper with me, it was like something over $70,000. But yet, it says here $62,900. So we were cutting from SAS, when technically I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but what I'm saying is that it already says that under contracted services, would have been only 6,200, not 62,900 anyway. So technically what we're doing is we're just cutting in different places where we don't necessarily need to. The buses, we did not need to cut.
So I think you're looking at this current year's budget, so the current year budget for contracted services is $62,900.
Yep.
Next year, we're budgeting $108,216, so if you reduce the $35,000, then that comes to $73,216.
Right, but the default budget is 62,900.
Because that's how the default budget is a statutory,
Right, so we didn't have to
Number.
cut anything from SAS though.
but we have to, it wasn't in the operating budget, so we have to cut some of that.
Last year, it was in ESSA funds.
Right.
Okay, well then we can cut that, but I'm just saying there was no need to cut the buses because we already have a budget here where the buses are already inflated.
I'm not sure what you mean by the buses were inflated.
Because you said we're at 495,000 right now, we're already in May.
And I said we're gonna be, like, again, if we're contracted for
Yeah.
a certain number of buses, we are obligated to spend that money
And get the money back.
if they don't have bus drivers. So I don't think you can, I mean, if you wanna if you're hoping that they don't have bus drivers and they don't fill those routes, then I guess you can account for that, or we can just reduce it, it's the same thing. I mean, if you're gonna, I'm not understanding,
Because we already have a default budget now.
the default budget is a statutory number, it's not a real number. It's your job to create a budget.
Right,
The default budget isn't a budget,
so,
it's a number.
right, I understand that, but for example, on its salary for special education, we have budgeted $107,449, yet the default budget's $102,875. So technically, that's not contracted, that's a raise that we approved, but it's not contracted, correct? So the $107,449 is someone's salary,
Well, that is what's proposed for next year.
right? But if you use the default number,
Yeah, because that's a non-union employee, so you can't, so they're contracted for 107,449, that person. We are obligated to pay that amount of money. However, the default is only 102 because that's how the default, it's the prior year's budget. So we have to come up with that $5,000 somewhere. That's why you have to create a budget that accounts for that.
but that $107,499 is going away this year anyway.
That was
Because
our-
that's the position, correct?
Well, that's a position that, yeah, you may have a difference in staffing, so you might have a different person that costs a different amount, that happens every year. But you have to budget based on certain assumptions, on whether that's a vacancy, whether it's a person, but you need to budget for it, one way or the other.
I think we have to talk about starters, because I'm getting a lot of feedback that they're not using the buses and they haven't for the last couple of years and they're not actually saving money.
So do you wanna hold on the reconsideration?
Yes, and
Until
we need to
after the
hear what people have to say,
rest
so,
Huh?
yes.
Well, I mean, we're supposed to.
Yes.
Okay.
After.
Can the students go first, so they don't have to witness the banter? The students were first?
Excuse me?
What?
Can the students go first, so they don't have to
Oh,
witness the banter?
absolutely, our students in the room, they're always first. Jump right up. I didn't see you were sorry about that. Okay. So after the students, will be public comment, so go ahead, ladies.
Hello, this is student representatives for Seabrook Middle School. Thank you again for having us. My name is Story Dillon.
I'm Amy McDonald. And I'm Gail Box.
In the 5th grade, in the LA class, they finished reading a book called Rules, and students liked it so much that they want a sequel. They're also exploring colonial regions in social studies and working on a project surrounding them. The 5th grade is also going on an exciting field trip to the Boston Tea Party Museum on the 16th of April. In the 6th grade, they worked on a Mexican fiesta and presented it to families and teachers. They also worked on an edited museum project. A lot of students participated and thoroughly enjoyed their time creating these projects. In the 7th grade, students can buy from Mrs. Raymond's shop, Raymond Riches, with money earned in class to shop for trinkets, food, and drinks. Students have also finished their pillow projects in facts class. Everyone enjoyed this activity and had lots of fun learning more and more about stuff. In the 8th grade, we reached over our goal of $10,000 for the 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip. We appreciate all the help and encouragement from everyone within our community. In language arts, we are starting to do our biographies for our passion project. In social studies, we are learning about World War II. There have been many trips up to Winnicott that have passed and are coming up. The 8th grade band and chorus went up and played with all the sending schools to Winnicott and played music for all the families to enjoy. All of the kids had lots of fun playing music, singing, and eating pizza with their soon-to-be peers. There is also a step-up day coming up on Thursday, so all the 8th graders can see what is happening in the school they are going to join next year. There is a mixer coming up for the 8th grade on Friday, and we have a lot going on. It is going to be a chance to meet our future classmates. All students have a field trip coming up for Fish Cascade. We will have so much fun watching the game and learning lots. Again with the 8th grade, we have a semi-formal. The theme is Fire and Ice, and we have many fun things coming up for everyone, and we all can't wait.
Spring sports have started and trials are now over. Track and field has a meet tomorrow, and softball and baseball games start next week. Congratulations to all of our student athletes that have made it onto the spring teams. Youth Use is beginning their popcorn fundraiser later this month. Students will sell popcorn during the advisory appears. The funds will be used for other club activities. Student Council has an approved date for the NPU dance. They will continue to prepare for that until the dance on May 10th. Our club had a hat fundraiser to raise funds for their club. It was successful. Interact is planning their annual senior luncheon at the Seabrook Recreation Department, where Interact members will help serve meals to seniors in the community.
Scientists are starting to have lunch with us students for 6 days. We're all very thankful for these scientists taking time out of their busy lives to come and talk to us about their careers. Today was the first day, and we had 10 students join 2 UNH PhD students for pizza. Students had lots of thoughtful questions. We had a wonderful RAM assembly in the month of March. All of our peers had lots of fun, or at least it looked like it from where I was. 8th graders definitely had school spirit. We had great participation in the games, and even the students that weren't playing showed spirit by cheering on their grade. A big thank you to Casa Tequila for donating and serving a wonderful lunch for the 6th graders. The Mexican Fiesta was a very exciting event for the students because of having a meal and celebrating all the things that they have been working hard learning. And finally, parents and students, just a reminder, there have been many permission slips, including the school-wide Fisher Cats game, that need to be turned in. If you have them sitting on your kitchen counter collecting dust, the teachers would love them.
Open up public comment. Come on up, Paul. Thank you. Great job. Thank you.
Paula Wood, 28th Street, Seabrook, New Hampshire. I was one of the people who recently had kind of a heart attack when the school bus situation was proposed. So I did quite a bit of investigating on it on my own. I've been out of it for a few years, but for many, many years I was on the budget committee and the chairman most of those years. What happened to this town when that happened was panic. Parents tried really hard to raise their children and support their family. There were so many parents on Facebook and other social medias that expressed they didn't know how they were going to do it because their main concern was leaving their middle school kids home alone. We have always had an issue here in town with our kids getting into trouble. And as a parent, I followed my kids to school here. I wasn't going to let them out of my sight because I was afraid. I subbed here, I volunteered, I worked. So let my grandson be home alone or in the afternoon not be with his sister. I just thought it was a terrible suggestion. In that thoughts, I'm thinking, okay, say it's 250 middle school kids that are gonna be dropped off early with the elementary school kids by the parents. They're all gonna go sit in the in the gym, I figure, because the cafeteria will be serving breakfast with little or no supervision because everybody else already has a job. What do you think's gonna happen? I mean, we already hear the horror stories that are happening in the halls with our awesome teachers and our unbelievable EAs. We were assistants, so. So that idea to me was it was dumbfounding. Anyway, going and looking through the default budget, the reason, and like this gentleman over here, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, was speaking about the default budget and how it was statutory. It is statutory. And it's basically, in layman's terms, enough money to run the school for the year. That's exactly, bottom line, what the state statute allows. No more, no less. If you had agreed to a contract, that contract will be paid. Salaries will be paid. The bus, and as far as the default budget, this panic that you're putting this town through is not necessary. It's not called for. Because last year, the figure that was returned and put against taxes was 408,479. More money than what the difference between the proposed budget and the default budget is. So, there are other things that do have to be paid. But if belts are tightened and things are not frivolously spent, there's no need to panic. No need to have anyone panic. This is not the first time the Seabrook School has run with the default budget. And it didn't collapse. And it didn't go into receivership. So Maria, I understand respectfully when you made the statement maybe the money should all be spent. Okay? It's an idea. Good, bad, or indifferent. But if that is done, then when you have the year of a default budget, you may not have that extra money.
Like we do.
This year, there is no reason to panic. As a matter of fact, right now, the school is going to probably end up giving the same amount back to the town this year. Because as of today, this morning, the amount that's left in that account is 650084. I know there's a few more months of school, okay? But I figure most contracts by this time of the year, this is the last quarter. All the bills are paid. All the contracts are taken care of. This happens every July.
So when you say 408,479 is returned to the town, can you explain that to everybody? Because there may be people that don't understand what that means.
What that is at the end, there's a certain allotment given to the school, their whole budget. And if they don't spend every bit of it, there's an amount that is left over, just like with the town budget. The town budget goes into the unexpended fund balance. And that's when the selectmen say they're taking out money out of the unexpended fund balance to put towards taxes, that's where that money comes from. So, through the school, instead of that going into an unexpended fund balance, and then the next process, putting it towards the taxes, the system has it putting it directly towards the taxes to lower the tax base. It may not be a great amount, but it's money that has already been raised by the taxpayers and is being returned to them.
Well, it's more than 2 buses. 3 buses.
And as far as Maria's concerned, if you've got kids sitting on a bus for an hour, put on another run. If you can get a bus driver, I'm just, I know I can say that very easily, just put on another. But I just feel, and I'm gonna say it right out, I just feel that there's a lot of bitterness for the way the voting went this year. I know it didn't make anybody happy. I didn't want the school in a default budget. I want things to go as they are. And one thing I know about this town, one of the most important things to them, all the people in this town, is their kids. And if their kids aren't getting treated right, we'll let you know. And I think that we may not have 1 million parents here, but I think the vote was clear. We need help getting our kids on the right track. I'm here to support the teachers, the school board, the administration, I got questions. But it's not a panic situation. Nothing's gonna happen, the school's gonna run. People are not gonna lose their jobs. Every job is contractual. No matter what anybody says, the money's in the budget. If not, the state would come down and they have to be the ones that would close it down. So please, let's all work together on this budget and check out what monies may be elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Great information. Okay, anybody else from the public? Come on up, Janet.
Janet Dow, Seabrook, New Hampshire. So I work for First Student, and I've driven a bus now for 10 years. I did drive in Seabrook, and I am now in Winnicott because I'm not able to drive in Seabrook. I drove in Seabrook because it worked with my child. I could take him on the bus with me, get him ready for school, get everything done, drop him off at school, pick him up at school, and be home with him. I haven't been able to do that this year because I've been forced to drive Winnicott. I've been called by the school multiple times with concerns that Cameron has. He's afraid to go home today because the guy in Maine that killed somebody in a bowling alley and then went elsewhere and killed somebody else, they're all talking, they're saying he's in Kingston. My child is flipping out. He's got to go home by himself to an empty house. He's scared. And it's not fair to him. So to now swap these buses out and have a later start, you're asking my child to be home another hour and a half by himself. If he misses the bus, who's coming to get him? How's he get to work? Because I'm at work. I'm at my other job. I can't get him to work, to school. So now he misses school multiple times a month, then I get threatened with DSS because my child is in school. He has multiple absences. Last year, he was absent twice, he was tardy twice. And I got a letter that they were going to contact DSS because of his absences. I don't think that was excessive absences. One was the nurse said he had fever. She thought. He had one on one side of his head, but not the other side of the head. So he can't go to school tomorrow. So he missed that day. 2 times he was back in by 8:30, 9 o'clock. because he hadn't got the doctor's appointment. There was no need to contact DSS on him. Like, it was 2 absences, 2 tags. So, my worry is, if we stagger these times, my child's gonna miss the bus a lot. He's just 11 years old. I'm responsible for this person until he's 18 years old, but the school wants him to be responsible for himself at 11 years old. It's not gonna work. He's gonna forget his lunch. He's gonna forget his homework. I go home many times now, and my house is wide open during the day, left wide open, because he's rushing to try to meet the bus, and I'm not there. It's just, I don't see it's gonna work. And I worry about my child missing the bus or being home for another hour and a half. You know, the recent eclipse, Miss Lang taught, the science teacher, 5th grade, just gave me a call. She was teaching them of the eclipse. Cameron walked up to her desk in tears, worried about Mom out on the bus, because what's gonna happen to my mother? She's gonna be driving during this. He didn't understand that I was gonna be okay. He was scared. And when it was all over with today, he was like, well, yeah, it was stupid. I don't know why I was so scared, but it was new to them. It's new to them. They didn't really know what was gonna happen. But it's an example of he changed and he's afraid. You know, we got people out running the roads that, no, they're not nice people. And, you know, I gotta go home to a house. Is this guy at my house? Is he hiding at my house? And I know kids exaggerate in their minds, but it's real to them. It's totally real to them. So staggering times, I don't see it's gonna work. That's.
Can I roll you back, though? I just have a quick question. You said, because I know you've driven bus in Seabrook forever. And at some point, can we hear from you, maybe not here, but however, because I don't mind here in Seabrook driving it, obviously.
And you know what, I wanna let, I did Cat die because I need my job,
And we need bus drivers.
but I need my job. So let's let the dead cat stay dead.
Okay, so let's say this, let's say if we didn't do the staggered times, because, I mean, the only other option to do the staggered times is to have, a program in here in the morning for students. And that's not an option, seeing that is one of the community school options to get YMCA in the morning. So considering we're gonna do staggered times instead of just being honest with the board and saying, you know, we can have YMCA coming in because that's one of the pillars of the community school. We're not doing staggered times if the school board decides to vote on that. But I want everyone to know that if we don't do staggered times and the buses do end up being a little bit more packed, I don't know how the board feels, but I think we need to definitely have a strict policy for the buses, meaning these bus drivers, well, you're a bus driver, so not for here, but these bus drivers need some type of.
You need support for the bus
They do.
drivers. You
They do.
Because
And
they're a major problem on the
monitors don't
buses.
matter because we have monitors on buses, and there's still fights and police having to report to buses. The bottom line is if we don't do buses and there's more kids on the buses, which according to what Paula just said, we turned in back $408,000 that we think we need to come in buses. There has to be a policy for the bus drivers. And everyone needs to know this is gonna be accountability. If your kid messes up on the bus, they get a warning, whatever the way policy, whatever the way the board, whatever.
I can tell you as a bus driver, my children never were put aside. My boss can tell you how many times I wrote my own children out. And she was even like, you wrote your own child up? Yes, I did. They're no different than any other child on my bus. If my child is on my bus and they're acting up, they're getting written up also.
Yeah, I just think it's important for everyone to know that if you have to cut a bus and the buses are more crowded, which I can't see why they have to, there's gonna be a bus policy, whether it's, you know, a warning and then, you know, they get reported and they get kicked off the first time and then a week and then, I don't know, but all I know is that we can't keep letting all these kids on a bus in a fight, it's not worth it, something's gonna happen, we're not paying extra bus monitors.
It does, but I just know that staggering times is gonna add more stress to my child.
Yeah.
And at 11 years old, these children don't need to
not
carry
me.
this stress. So, they should be worrying about that. So,
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Samantha Henson, 198 South Main Street. I drive a school bus, but I also have elementary school students here. I know that was wishy-washy with how the routes are going to be longer and this and that. I don't want anyone to lose their job because I love my fellow bus drivers. But I will let the board know that this is my little cheat sheet because we have been down buses all year long and we do extra work. We want to get paid for our extra work. So just some numbers. The month of January, 21 out of 21 school days, we did not have a bus for 21 days. Out of 21 school days, we did not have a bus 8 for 19 days. In February, out of 17 school days, we did not have a bus 4 for 16 days. Out of 17 school days in February, we did not have a bus 8 for 10 days. And this has gone on since I have started in October because my fellow bus driver, Melissa, does bus 4 every single afternoon. There's been maybe a handful of times that we've had a bus 4. So the routes are not going to change drastically if we have to have buses, because we do have some buses that have one bus in particular has 15 kids, if that.
How many kids per bus?
Our buses are 84. Okay. 84 for the flat noses, and I think 76 for the C2s. Our routes will stay pretty consistent, I believe, with the amount of kids. Obviously, if there's no rec or there's no staffs, we have an influx of kids. But it really, for the most part, I think today I took 30 kids home, if that, with me and my routes. And this has been the last 2 years that we've been dealing with not all of our buses since I started running it. Our routes vary. I think our longest route is bus 3, and that's like a 30-minute route, maybe 45 if you have kids that have to be returned to school. But for the most part, our children will not be on the bus for an hour. I don't think we have any routes in Seabrook that are an hour long, 30 minutes tops, and they're not overpacked. We have issues on the bus, but it's not we have issues with every kid. We have select issues with select children, which is being taken care of. I'm very happy with our middle school and our elementary school. Like they're working on it. We're taking a right step forward. So I think if we continue, we have a stronger bus policy, then that will also help as well.
So if we have 84 seats on a bus, even if we had 84 and we had 9 buses, that's 756. We have 600 and some kids in the school and a lot of parents bringing kids.
So that's a new point, there's not, I mean, we didn't even have to discuss this in the first place. I mean, it came to us completely unnecessary. Sorry.
It was a problem.
Yeah, I don't mean by you, I mean by from what you had suggested.
I just want to say how important it is for you guys to come to these meetings, because if I've heard that, I wanted to get my gut, because I was against it from the beginning. It was on the first time you brought it up, I looked at it and I was like, no. So I want to apologize, I went against my gut, but I love when the community comes, because I love hearing it before we vote. Because if I heard that before we voted last week, never would have voted for it. I would have pushed a little bit harder, I would have worked with Matt a little bit more on it. So I love this community comes in because we want to hear from you guys on these issues.
We have brought this up twice at meetings.
Yeah. Oh, you have?
I used to do it last week.
That's why the last meeting I said, we're
Okay.
not really cutting because we're already down to buses, so we can say we're not paying a lot of that up front.
Okay.
And get that at the end.
Well,
The questions just weren't answered.
yes.
To the full extent they should have been.
Well, I appreciate the feedback.
We've been running 9 buses for the last month, I want to say at least. I mean, it's varied throughout the school year, but we've consistently been running 9 buses.
And the kids are not being late whatsoever.
I do too.
And our contract is there were 11 buses? 11? Okay, so we were cutting 2 buses in. Okay. Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Anybody else?
Melissa Dow, 6th grade literature here at Seabrook Middle School. When I left our last meeting, I felt relieved and heard that my voice and experience as a teacher Serving this community mattered. The board diligently listened to public comments, brainstormed solutions, held productive discussions with the SAU and administration, and ultimately came to a decision that was the least impact on student growth and achievement to address the $319,000 and some change deficit. However, mere hours later, a poll posted by a board member appeared on Facebook surveying the community after the board made a clear-cut 5-0 vote on passing the newly proposed budget. After surveying hundreds of comments on social media, some of which were very negative, unproductive, and filled again with misinformation, obviously, after sitting here for a while, under the impression that the board is about to break the trust that they just began to build for staff, to change what was already agreed upon. Again, I call upon the Seabrook community to review this board's practices. Why would the board make a decision, then ask the community for feedback, and of all places, on a private community page on Facebook? The community made their vote clear when they turned down the budget. The community made their presence known when they had the chance to attend the meeting and voice their concerns. There was even a time when the school board shifted meeting times to 6 p.m. to accommodate community members, and still there was very little turnout. When the board makes a 5-0 decision, it doesn't leave room for discussion. I know that you will want to quickly dismiss Facebook, that the appalling discussions putting down the SAU and administration should be discounted, but not if you're going to then turn around and use the same source as a funnel for parent concerns through Facebook poll. The poll on Facebook that left commenters wondering how losing 2 buses would save the district money. The post didn't share any background information leading to the decision, failing to state how the cut would provide $155,000 that we can deduct from a $319,000 deficit. It is unfortunate that one of our board members would engage in posting a poll and make comments about a proposal that was already voted on with a clean 5-0 result. The post pushed the blame to the SAU and our administration, failing to mention that this proposal was 100% supported and voted on by all board members. This was another attempt to vilify our SAU and administrative team. The blame lies on the budget failing, period. This behavior is concerning. I would like to point out that every member of this board signed an ethics policy. Under the ethics policy located in section BCA, the board member's ethics of Seabrook Board Governance and Operations Policy, it clearly states that each board member will make decisions and take votes based upon reliable facts, the full deliberation of the board, and my independent judgment, and refuse to surrender or subordinate that judgment to any individual or special interest group. It appears that this ethical expectation was not followed by the board members, as no one was privy to a deliberation where the board decided to post a poll on social media, or surrender their judgment that was already made on a private Facebook group. I would also like to point out another ethical expectation that falls under section BCA, the board members' ethics, which explains that board members will attend all regularly scheduled board meetings insofar as possible, and become informed concerning issues to be considered at those meetings. Informed concerning issues to be considered at those meetings. I do not believe that this board is informed of issues that are brought up in these meetings. The board tried to vote to have the ability to approve individual invoices or payroll checks when this ability is already in practice. This board is not even informed of its own policies. The board consistently blames the SAU and our administrative team for lacking information. Section BCA of the board members' ethics also states that board members will be informed about current educational issues by individual study. Again, this position requires dedication and time to educate oneself on policies and practices. The Seabrook community needs to know that this board collectively makes $22,617 a year. They are paid to educate themselves, come to meetings prepared, visit our school, gather facts. Instead, the board comes up with policies on the fly, listens to and spreads misinformation, and continues to lay blame on others. To say that the board is not contentious or hostile is not far from the truth. The staff listen and hear the school board say over and over again that nothing is being done to address student test scores. Statements like that set the tone for staff. Of course, we feel responsibility for our students. Instead of making these statements, try asking, what are you doing to address the low student test scores? If the board merely asked, then we would tell you. 123.9% of 6th grade students met the projected growth in the area of reading, and 206.8% met their projected growth in math. Our students were off the charts with growth that they made this year, as demonstrated on their winter NEWA. And about the students who fall between the cracks, so the students who need both math and language arts intervention, well, our administration along with the SU devised a plan to help those students. They offered teachers to provide small group instruction to students during their planning time. 83% of the students in my RAM squared group made significant gains in just 6 weeks of targeted instruction. Again, I would like a committee to research the practices of this board and to look into the ethics policy that governs these practices. With regards to the schedule change in busing, I ask that the school board support the new proposal to have 2 buses cut without staggering start times. This will be the best decision that will appease parents and guardians and will have the least impact on student growth. I also recommend a seating chart for buses. Thank you.
So I'm gonna say one thing now moving forward, because we just listened to you, and the negativity that I feel was just shot at all these board members, 2 are brand new, and I'm gonna say to you, I hope that everybody out in this community in Seabrook is just as passionate about the academics, because as much as you wanna tell us, it's better, you know what, we're not seeing that out there. So if we can get past all this dust that's coming up and about what you want the board to do, we're gonna get to academics, and maybe we need to bring an outside agency in to help us figure out how we're gonna help kids in this
Hi there.
Why are you laughing at me?
I'm not laughing.
You are laughing, it's unacceptable.
I hope you agree, because you're the one that's gonna make it
Because I've been
happen.
called a liar for the last year of the community school, and there's a whole packet here that describes exactly what I've been saying for the last year, that you've laughed at me.
I don't know what concern.
I'm gonna tell you my concern
I would
is.
love to hear.
My concern is that on Facebook, I did mention that all the communities in the surrounding area would be able to come here, and I was told I didn't know what I was talking about. It says right in this packet, regardless of zip code, you can come here. Thank you, girls. Thank you. Mary?
That information that you're referring to is that regardless of age, student, zip code, they should be entitled to an adequate and appropriate
Exactly.
and exemplary education.
Right, but I have the
That
whole packet
means
here.
that the students in Seabrook deserve everything we can give
And they're
them
going to
to
get
make
it,
sure.
we're gonna make sure.
But the advisory program,
Misrepresent.
did you guys tell us the advisory program was put in the first 20 minutes every day was part of a community school pillar?
Advisory exists in.
It's listed on here, so
It may be, but advisory exists whether you're a community school or not. Advisory is something that's been a part of middle school programs since I taught middle school.
the goals listed on the last page that were reported, that Mary provided, all the goals that was reported of the things that you guys have accomplished to get towards a community school is everything that's happened in this school in the last year.
So a progress report on work that's being accomplished in
Right.
the school doesn't.
No, this is for the community school.
It's a requirement of the grant to provide a
Right.
progress report.
But what I'm saying is that you
And we
guys
offered-
implemented things without the board knowing, and it was all towards a community school. And you guys even mentioned the fact that the reduction of a full-time social worker position of 24-25 presents a significant challenge. The social worker provides a significant role in implementing full-service community school strategies and supporting the needs of students and families as full limited capacity moving forward. So when we spoke to you, you guys told us that the social workers would provide services for students. But in this, it says basically because she was turned down, moving forward to the community school would be impacted.
So we're not moving forward.
I know we're not, Carol.
We're not now.
We're
because
not
the community school can go hire an industrial building and rent it. We are a public school that belongs to those
Not
that
correct. You said
And
to me
it's
that
over.
I had no.
And I wanna know how many hours, Mary, has our community spent? How many hours paid for you all to be out on trips and lavish meals to learn about community schools, which is completely not gonna happen here.
So
It's not gonna happen. And no, Mary, I want to listen. I know. You know what though? Who knew about it all? Who knew?
We didn't get this information.
Information.
And it says right in here,
No one.
possible tutoring with the YMCA.
It's
Exactly
over.
what Ryan said
It's
last
over.
week.
I'm telling you.
We can provide forceful tutoring with the YMCA. It's word for word, and you guys just had a meeting on April 2nd.
It was a
And you
stakeholder
said
update
Who was
meeting.
there? Who's the stakeholders? Tell everybody.
Yeah.
Tell us all.
Members of the leadership team and.
Who's that? Name them.
I would be happy to give you a list of them.
I'm serious. Name them. We want to know who the stakeholders are that are involved in this great community school here at Seabrook Public School. Go ahead.
Let me just clarify one issue.
No,
that
I
think
want to
is a
know who
big-
the stakeholders are.
Please,
please allow me just to clarify this one issue because there is so much misinformation about a very small planning grant that this school was awarded for 1 year only. It's a limited time. It was meant to help us learn more about community schools. And what I said, and Brian said, and Colleen during our stakeholder update is, this is what we've learned in a nutshell. That Seabrook functions as a community school already. We are so committed to the ideals of bringing in our community partners like Seacoast Youth Services, like all of the community partners that come, including the YMCA, including Waypoint, including all the partners that have come to us to help us, because these teachers have a big job to do. And the community school philosophy is that they need our support and our help and the resources of partners who are embracing this community. There is so much good work going on in Seabrook and so many people who want to come alongside us and help us out. I'm not sure why this got misunderstood. It's a philosophy.
It's not misunderstood at all.
It's a philosophy.
Fully understood.
Nobody's opening a building, nobody is,
Employing students from other communities.
nobody's coming from
So
other
how
communities.
many people from the community were involved in your monthly meetings on Zoom? Because I didn't know if
There was no
a
monthly
community
meetings,
member.
there was an original stakeholder group, and this was the stakeholder update, because the meeting is coming to a close in June. We offered to do the same presentation, including some of our community partners, including UNH, who was at the stakeholder update and provided information. We offered to do it for you here, and we're still happy to do the presentation here.
So I read your list, right, of your group, and I picked up the phone and I called a couple people. I said, hey, how are those meetings going on community school project or whatever you want to call it? They said, what are you talking about? We don't know nothing about that. So literally, stakeholders were listed on a list and they had zero idea of what it was about. So I'm not gonna go back and forth with Mary or Meredith, but I'm gonna tell you something moving forward. As far as I'm concerned, this whole past year, to me, has been a waste because you know where it should have been? On math and reading, just like summer school, just like every day. But it was wasted a year,
We did
just
not
why are we
this
doing
year.
it?
We did not this
Really?
year.
And I'm not
We just
saying
told you.
staff, and I'm not
The
saying
teachers
staff.
told you what we were being
The
able to do.
support from the SAU office for the staff is a whole nother conversation, because you know something? Community school is a great idea in someone's head that happened in Manchester, right, where a couple of our administrators worked previously. And nowhere else will you find community schools in any schools around us. So just take Seabrook kids and let's just throw them in. We'll try this too. We don't have time to waste on the what ifs and what may work. We need to help, as an SAU, support the staff so that our kids can be taken where they need to be. We got 8th graders going up. You think they're all ready to go?
I think that this administration is working very hard.
Well, not hard enough for the SAU.
Well, I
We
mean,
need
last
more
week we were just
attention.
told that the JSI and the Seacoast Community Youth Services have been included community school, yet it says right on the paperwork, supporting students with emotional behavioral challenges, why the community school focuses to Seabrook. JSI with the Assert program and new partnership, Seabrook Police Department. So you're telling me all of this stuff is just coincidental? Maybe? I mean, it says right here, JSI, but we were told up here at the podium it has nothing to do with community school.
Again, I'm not understanding what the misconception is about a community school. A community school means you are a school.
No, it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
far more than that. That's the problem, that's how I'm trying.
Call order to this meeting. Bullet point agenda, and I understand that everyone is fired up, but right now, we have 100% crossed the line, and we're sitting here arguing, and if we wanna adjust the agenda at some point, that it's not 300 bullet points long, so we can actually get through a meeting, I could be out coaching softball right now, and I'm sitting here watching a bunch of adults scream and yell at each other.
Patrick, I
So,
will call the year for
we can address that, but right now, we have to get back on topic. We have a budget to discuss, we have the buses to discuss, we're getting off the topic. We can get into all of this stuff. We're setting a bad example right now. Government is supposed to have order and discipline. Have to follow or we're never gonna get anything accomplished. Like, I get it that everyone is fired up on both sides, but there is an agenda that's been posted, and we don't have 7 hours a night to go through all of this. Like, we need some order. We need to learn how to get along, because the example right now we're setting on about 100 different sides is out of line. I am calling this meeting to order, and we're gonna get accomplished what we have to get accomplished. I get it. Everyone's getting fired up, and at some point, somebody has to bang the gavel and put us back on track to get this stuff done today. And I'm banging the gavel right now, and we're gonna get the meeting back on track.
So let's, anybody else from the public, you would probably have to slow down the time you speak so we can get moving on, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'll try to
No,
keep it.
don't be sorry, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Dawn Raymond, 7th grade language arts teacher. I've been a teacher here at Seabrook Middle School for 17 years. I'm also a former graduate of Seabrook Middle School, having attended grades 6th through 8th year. This school community has been part of my life for a very long time, and much of my identity is wrapped up within these walls. I went into teaching because I wanted to give back to my own community, and so that students feel like they have another trusted adult in their corner. But I have to believe that every single person in this room, in this building, in this town has a common goal, and it's doing what's best for our children. Despite the pathways that we take to get there, in which we may disagree with each other, we all want the same thing, success of our students. And frankly, I would not want to teach anywhere else. This building feels like home, and I watch teachers in this building, administrators move mountains every single day. When teachers make decisions, when administrators make decisions, we have to consider the collective child. We don't have one student to think about, we have 300 to think about, 250, 260. In our classrooms, we try to meet each child where they are while having high expectations, while also trying to meet the 20 other children in our class where they are at the exact same time. It's challenging. Try it sometime. Please come into my classroom. We have to consider every day how our actions and words will affect hundreds of children. So while you might worry about your child or a child, we have to consider the hundreds of other children as well while trying to serve each child individually. These teachers in this building are part of my community and this community. You, the board members, part of the community. Our administrators, SAU, parents, guardians, townspeople, we're all a part of this community. We are one community. So I have to wonder, why does it always feel like an us against them in town? It feels like we're on opposing teams. Because I have to tell you, if you partner with me, if parents and guardians partner with me, we will be a winning team. The prize, your children's success. They can't lose, they will move mountains. We are all on the same team, or at least we should be. Trust us and respect us all the time, not just when we're in the same room and locking eyes. Trust us behind closed doors. Don't go back on your word, listen to us and take our suggestions. We know what we're doing, our administrators and our SAU know what they're doing. We've been doing it for a long time. Last week, I sat here during this meeting nervously. It was different than what I expected, a bit more friendly than I expected actually, and I was pleasantly surprised. But I realized quickly after that it might have been just for show and just a way to appease us momentarily. A 5-0 vote on a budget proposal, a little bit of a sigh of relief. What I didn't realize is that we'd be talking about the same budget proposal today. Why? You had already voted the proposal in. I understand the feeling that the voters need a say. They had their say several times. When they elected this board as their voice, when they had the chance to attend meetings discussing this budget, when they voted on our operating budget, their answer to vote in opposition to our budget, therefore reverting to our default budget. This proposal is the logical consequence of the actions of the voters. The decision was made, and now we have to clean up that mess. With regards to the $319,000 in our budget deficit, I propose that we cut 2 buses without staggering the start times. I do not ever agree with the practice of cutting positions no matter the position. Cafeteria, custodial, unified arts, core teachers, administrators. All of these positions and the people that fill them are here to serve your children. The loss of any position is a detriment to the growth of our children. In addition, we hear over and over how our children are underperforming, though I disagree. I do agree, however, that we need all hands on deck. Our most recent NEWA scores in the middle school showed tremendous growth and achievement. 153.4% of 7th grade students met their projected growth in the area of reading during the winter NEWA. In addition, 7th grade students scored above the national average in reading. In considering those students whose scores may be stagnant, our admin and SAU devised a plan to support these students with an additional RAM block. 75% of students in my second RAM block made growth, according to the NEWA screener, in just 6 weeks. We work extremely hard as a team to support students. And finally, I know how proud this community is. I've lived here for many years. You are fiercely loyal and protective of your children. It's admirable and beautiful. But just know that I and we are also loyal and protective of your children. Thank you.
Again, I just want to take 1 second. Patrick, I understand your anxiousness or whatever, but I've seen more passion tonight from this board than I have since I've been start coming back. I stood here and said, how about you guys look at me even? There was nothing going on. And realize when things are being said on social media, it's not always one-sided. And it's not always friendly. But that's what it is. Everybody's a keyboard warrior. And I'm sorry, but the board doesn't need to get into managing who's saying what on Facebook. If you can't handle what's being said on social media, get off it. I want to thank the board tonight because you guys have worked together and done more for this community than I've seen done by this board in a long time. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? If not, we're gonna move on. We got a pretty packed agenda.
I think it went pretty quick. Yeah, I summed it up pretty easy. All right, so something was mentioned about excess funds, finding ways to make them before they go back to the town.
Can you just identify yourself for the
Oh, I'm sorry, Justin Testi, across Beach Road. So it was mentioned that there'd be money possibly getting some back to the town, but could also be spent. Seems to me that the town would have to vote on that, unless it's an arbitrary fund. Second thing, as far as the bus goes, I would listen to the bus drivers. And also, I have 6 kids in my home that are PCYF kids. Get a 504 open immediately if they show any behavioral issues. Don't let it get to the point where they get kicked off the bus. And that doesn't mean you guys are paying for it. Sending district pays for everything. That's what I've been told by the state. Yeah, it's all covered. So when my kids go to their IEP meeting, or not my kids going to, my teachers going to, the sending district is also a meeting, and they get to vote, or they get to decide whether it's appropriate or not. And if they fight, I think maybe you guys have to pay for it, but usually they have to do it if it's for the best interest of the kid. That's it.
Thank you. All right, so moving on, approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion for the March 19th minutes?
I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye. April 2nd, budget review minutes. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes for the April 2nd budget review meeting.
Can I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Now in the report section, does anybody have a question about a particular report so that we don't have to individually everybody go through and read? And if anybody ever needs a copy of the report other than confidential information, I'm sure you can have it supplied. Anybody have anything on the reports? No? Okay. Moving on, continuing business, school board committee appointments. I'm going to move that until the next meeting. I know there's a few little things coming up, but I feel that we get so much to do tonight that we can decide which one, if everybody's okay with it, and come back at the next meeting on what you're ready to settle on. Policy first read. Is anybody comfortable with making a motion for the first read of these policies? Anything, we're good, okay. School board goals, I think we need a chance to retreat and meet those, we haven't done that yet, so we'll move past that. Correspondence received, any, information on that?
I've had time to date it for today.
Okay, the operating budget, we're all set with that right now.
Oh,
Or do you have something else? Okay, go ahead.
The motion would
You wanna make it a change?
Change from what was voted, either.
So, I'll make a motion,
Yep.
do I do that first?
Yeah,
Reconsider.
Any so, all in favor? Aye.
And then I'll make a motion, so that we take two buses out, I don't know how this is worded. Yeah, because we have an extra 2,000 that I wanted to make a motion to go back into supplies.
You probably do one motion.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Denise. So that's my motion on the table.
Anybody second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, and now we can move on past that. The MOU with Assert Seacoast Youth Services, I would like a motion to reconsider because I think, as a board, we have the information in front of us. But I was under the understanding that we had a social worker in place and an advocate, then it wasn't. And I'm not sure that we're gonna have new positions in town, so I think we put the cart before the horse, so I'm asking for a vote to reconsider the, Assert program for the time being until we revisit it when we have everything into place.
I'll make a
The
motion.
chief, sorry, the chief.
Okay, go ahead.
So the program is through the police department, so what we're asking for is the MOU to share information with you. It's not whether or not we can do it. We have the ability to do it right now.
Right.
It's gonna be easier for us to do it and more effective when we have a person that's able to do it full-time or at least part-time. So that has nothing to do with why
But
we're
you
here.
don't have the full-time or part-time.
No, correct.
Right.
But that has nothing to do with our ability to move forward with the program. So we can still do the same type of things moving forward. But,
Without this, right?
correct.
Okay,
So-
so we don't need that.
No, but for the purpose of the MOU is for us to be able to share information with the school. It's not asking for anything from you. The most important part of that, the MOU that I sent to Meredith was the addendum for the school at the end. It's just asking us if we can share it with you. If you don't want to, that's fine. We just can't provide you with any information that we receive on the students that are receiving services that we're directing to services. It has nothing to do with whether or not the program will be implemented. It's just whether or not we can share the information with the school staff.
The information will be coming from Seabrook Services. So when we say social worker and family advocate, that's on our side, not on the PD side.
Right.
So the program can run regardless of whether the new positions or not. I would be the one calling and letting someone at the school know, handle with care this student.
Like you're doing already, right?
Well, I can't share any personal information about
But you're
kids
here in the
until this
school
is signed.
working with the kids.
I know. So I think that's what's confusing is that services has a number of different projects that do different things with different schools all over the place, right? So right now we have a student assistance counselor, which is what I presented on last time. That's through JSI. JSI is the funding agent, like the organization that supplies the grant for us to do student assistance work. So Seacoast Youth Services hires that person, so Megan is your SAP. So that's how I'm involved in that. That is completely separate from the community school, it's completely separate from Assert. So that's kind of on its own. Assert, the model goes with a full service community school if you should desire one. It stands alone on its own. It does not have to do with a full service community school. This is a program run through the PD, and we are the partnering agency so that we can
Yes.
provide our social workers out to the families.
So I think that's an important point to know, because I heard it mentioned earlier. Assert has nothing to do with the type of educational model that a particular school has. It's not, Seabrook schools or a community school or a charter school or whatever. It's about serving the students in those schools. So it has nothing to do with the educational model or however the school is run. It's providing services for events that typically are happening outside the school that our officers are encountering. So it's not, when we look at it, it's not it's not designed to go with a particular learning model or whatever. It's
a community program, and what we're trying to do is just support your students. Like, there's another arm to it. We're trying to say that you have your youngest learners at school most of the day, and if we have something that happens in the community with the fire or police, we want the teachers and the social workers and the counselors and the administrators and the nurses to just have heads up. That's literally all we want to do.
Don't you kind of feel like that's up to the parents? Don't you think the parents should
so listen, so it is, hold on. So it is. So part of our policy, if you work at the police department, Jen works at the police department. Jen has access to all these records because she's employed at the police department. Jen and I cannot then provide you that information. Disseminating that information the way that we're describing is all based on consent. That is part of the policy of the police department, that it won't be released without parental consent. We've got a form that the parents would sign acknowledging that they understand that they're okay with receiving some of these services, having somebody follow up with them. It's all consent. So the part that we're looking for from the school board is just to be able to share that. After consent's given, and the flyer that Maria has shows like the flow chart of what happens. We respond to an event, we identify that it's a traumatic event for a child. The officers present that to the social worker, pending consent of the family, and then the social worker reaches out to them. So that's the abridged version of it. Reduced digest version.
I can make an example of this. Police and fire respond to a certain residence, and there's been an overdose death of somebody in that residence. Brother, sister, cousin, neighbor, the child is seen it. You guys are there, you're taking care of the incident, the child. You guys obviously have to contact the services of Seacoast Youth and or whoever else you guys are partnering with, DCYF potentially. Once that's all contact been made, this memorandum of understanding will allow you guys to share, because the parent signs off.
Correct. So
one
the
of the
officers,
surviving parents or whoever is there says, yeah, you know what, my child just saw his brother overdose on heroin, walked into the room, he was dead on arrival. I know that he's had a traumatic experience, we would like the school
exactly, and that may happen that night. The officers may follow up before that, but it doesn't get passed outside until
you guys legally can't say anything to anybody outside of the investigation until after the parent signs. Parent says, absolutely give my kid some extra counseling at school, let his teachers know because I'm already busy dealing with this traumatic event. Right?
And it doesn't always lead to the school having to do anything. It's also just a heads up. It's just, if the kid is having a really off day and they didn't have the heads up, they'd be like, well, really, what's going on here? Like, come on, let's do your math homework. And like, maybe that happened last night, and the math homework is really a challenge right now.
Who's our contact person in the school that you would reach out to?
We would reach out to the SRO.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And typically it would be disseminated through him.
Yeah. Traditionally, it's usually the school social worker, so next year maybe the school counselor.
But yeah, so again, it's just it's just for us to be able to share that information with you. And it's not, again, the timing, as I said this last time, the timing is coincidental because here we are talking about the MOU, when the social worker position was just going out. But that's complete coincidence. And in the partnership with SYS is simply because we have the information, like we're the ones responding to the fire. We're responding to these things, we see these things, the officers on scene identify traumatic events, and that there's a child in the home or that there's a child that at least lives there, and be exposed to it when they get home. So we're seeing that, we're collecting the data. Seacoast Youth Services has the connections to get the services for those kids and victims. It's a victim and child oriented process. That's what we're looking to do.
So the only thing that I would say about this, right, and I think the years that we've had this process, I mean, we've had issues, but I think that the school also can be notified, I mean, maybe somebody, community calls, parent calls, a cousin, uncle, aunt. There has been ongoing support for that all along, I've seen it in my years on the school board, it's nothing new, we do have that communication. You may not be able to put down anything specific, but we definitely, and you must have DCYF that you use at the police department too if things come up.
We do.
So, and the only thing about this, the only piece of it, I'm gonna be honest with you, because I was thinking you would have a social worker, you would have a child advocate in-house, and then this came to me, Manchester uses this exact thing for their schools, and it's under the community school concept. So that is the only thing that I don't wanna see that happening, because, oh, you have that, so you're part of it.
But that's what I'm telling you, it has nothing to do with that. It's
It's the funding arm that's helping us do the advocacy part.
so MSK Health.
Yeah, Amherst, that's okay. I'm gonna tell you about it. So Amherst Health is the technical assistance center. This was like the first model in Manchester. So they now have a SAMHSA grant that they're funding Assert projects throughout the state. We applied to Seacoast Youth Services with the partnership of the PD, received funding, so we have access to all of the Assert materials and marketing and all of those things. So it is a little bit of copy and paste, but it has nothing to do with a full service community school. That's just the way Manchester's doing it. This is just a community effort, and we're trying to take the resource piece after a traumatic event has happened and then get the family savings.
Is this for the whole SAU 21 or just Seabrook?
Right now, it's just Seabrook.
Exactly. And that's what I don't understand tonight.
Because the PD.
Yeah, because the police department is the one who, like these other agencies, have to be involved in the process. They have to get the ability and the time to put a program in place.
I mean, there are other communities in New Hampshire that have them. Concord has one, Dover has a very active one. Police departments want to do this, but it's a big lift. You have to have a partnership agency. We just happen to also be in Seabrook and wanting to do the same project. The community partners are there's a lot of overlap. It's Haven, which is used by Portsmouth and by Dover, and they even go out to Concord sometimes. So we're using a lot of the same partners. It really is a very copy and paste type of program, and then your community makes it its own.
So all you guys are doing is calling the school and saying, stuff went down at Timmy's house last night.
That is the journal I wanted to.
So
I just want to give someone help.
We would want that information on the school side. I'm gonna speak from the middle school side. I would wanna know that. Just so all those adults and the one counselor we have, because we don't have a social worker anymore, would be able to support whoever it is that needs to be supported.
Well, that's my thing, is that if there's communication to the school because the child's having a hard time and they need to speak to the child, I think that that's where we need to question at what point the parent is given permission.
Parent gets permission.
For the school to get the information.
Right.
But that does not give the school permission to counsel and question this child.
If the kid needs it.
No.
I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying.
I don't agree, that's my point.
If the parent lets the police know, and if the parent lets us know.
That's my concern, is that.
If the parent lets us know, then the parent's okay with us.
We were just told that it's basically just transferring information from the police to the school so they're aware.
100%.
Right, but now we're getting into if the child needs counseling, the parent gave permission for the information to be shared.
That's not what.
No, and these are all parallel processes, okay? So something happens at the PD, they might still have to call DCYF. We are not DCYF. We're still gonna run a parallel Assert program. And when I call the school, you guys are still gonna do whatever you normally do if a kid needs counseling. No one is circumventing parental rights in terms of signing off on counseling. And there's a difference between critical incident responding and ongoing counseling. So if the kid needs something in the moment, you can respond in the moment, but if it's ongoing, you need parental permission. So that's not changing. We're not trying to come in and change the
So what are we doing with this?
So I'm just gonna be more this last time.
Yeah, no, last time you said you wanted to see the MOU before you agreed. So I'm gonna throw it back to you.
Yeah.
Who made the motion?
I made a motion to accept.
Second, yeah. Paul abstained.
We got 3 yeses.
Three yeses. I'm abstaining from this, cause I just don't
I wanna
feel
go
like
more
I
about it
know
once
about
we
it.
say it.
So 2 abstentions, 3 for it.
Thank you.
Okay, and then moving on to new business. Federal grant assurance is not, the date of that is June. So I had asked this to be pushed along until the next meeting, and it was somehow left on because it's not, doesn't have a deadline to meet tonight. Federal grant general assurances, and then I have the one kind of graduation rate, he gave the information for it. However, the only thing I would ask for the next meeting, I got that, if we could do, what I'm looking for is the day school actual dropout rate, not the ones that go to night school, not the GED, the for Seabrook, if we could get that. Because they have it, but you don't have it broken down, the actual, and we can talk about it another time, if you have questions, contact me. And I'll help you figure out what it is I'm looking for. Grant Title I only for summer school, I had left that one on, so we needed to talk about the Title I, grant. Okay? Yeah, no, yeah, go ahead.
Can I just ask if you guys are staggering time still, because you didn't discuss it?
No, I made a motion that we're not staggering time,
But it wasn't said, so it wasn't said, it just talked about kind of 2 buses.
Oh, no, they just, yeah, I wasn't loud enough, I'm sorry. No, we're not staggering.
I'm sorry about that. Sorry.
That's all loud, usually we get loud, but.
Go ahead. Title I, summer school. Anything?
So we have your board packet, a description of the summer program through Title I that's being proposed as an activity for this summer. So I can answer questions around that, I can explain it, we can talk it through. If anyone have questions about the program?
Just my biggest thing is, I know we've been doing a lot of social emotional over the summer school. I'd love to see, like I said before, can we see something maybe at the May meeting, how we're going to get some concentration on math and reading language, so that we can bring kids in when they come in 3 days or whatever it is with you guys, that they're coming home actually learning skills to try to catch them up for the following year a little bit. And so, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I feel we need to kind of veer for that a little bit too.
It says right. Tell me
Yeah, go ahead. I'm happy to answer.
In an attempt to close the gap that summer vacation can often leave our students in our school, like Title I elementary school, we will send each pre-K through 4th grade student home with a reading packet. It contains approximately 10 books, activity cards to each student where we can encourage for their reading and writing skills throughout the summer. Is this like what we're
That's
doing?
right, there's 2 activities that you have in front of you, right, and that's the summer reading, yep.
And then the second one is the summer school program.
So it's a combined,
Yeah.
it's kind of looking at it from 2 things, yeah.
You looking to do the, wasn't there a UNH writing camp that went on last summer? Is
So
that
that's something different that would happen outside of the school, that's another agency
Oh, it wasn't
that,
part
yeah.
of the summer school
No.
program.
So let me just, I'll backtrack just a little bit, just for the audience. For the last 3 summers, we've been able to offer summer school through using our Assert monies. That summer school was more, it was a balance, it was a mix of social emotional learning, enrichment, we had targeted intervention, we had teachers, we had counselors, we had outside agencies. It was about students post-COVID combining learning with lots of other parts of the program where we were able to provide a very specialized summer program with that, combining our ESY, which is our special ed summer schools, integrated into that. Students were receiving all their services, they were still receiving targeted intervention, we had interventionists on board for the summer. But it's gonna look different than this summer.
Okay.
Okay, so this summer we're kind of going back pre-COVID to our typical classic Title I summer school.
Yay.
So this summer is reading, writing,
Awesome.
arithmetic, right? So it's the nuts and bolts of Title I summer school. We are targeting 100 students for this to start with. We have some staff in the elementary that would, classroom teachers, along with 2 interventionists that I budgeted for the activity. You can take a look. And then in the middle school, we would have 2 teachers and an interventionist.
Awesome.
This would run separately from our ESY special education program, which happens in the summer where students receive services. That's something different. This is a Title I summer school where students would come in. It would be 3 mornings a week. Just like we have here, it would be 4 weeks, 3 mornings a week. It's 12 days. Starts from 8:30 to 12. There's breakfast and lunch available for students, and they really have it's targeted reading, writing, and math. So it's a great program. It was run before COVID. It's something that has been in the school for many years. I think families count on it. I think it's good for kids. I think we're very, very lucky to have staff willing to come in and do that work. They do pay for that work, but it's still, they have the opportunity to work with students additionally in summer. Students they know, so they know how to target that instruction. We use data to drive that. We look at students' test scores. We target students that need it the most. And we really, I think it's going to be a really important program to keep going post-COVID and keep it in our Title I funds.
Okay, all right, well, thank you.
Okay.
So, do we need a vote or anything, or?
Well, we said do activities.
It was all grant,
Okay.
20,000, so I would.
Excellent, okay, so motion to approve the Title I grant,
Make a motion to approve the Title I grant for summer school.
second, and all in favor? Aye.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Moving forward, I can do a grant update at our monthly meetings, if that's something that you'd like, to just provide you more information around the other grants as well. This is Title I, and there's other grants that we receive as a school, just to keep that transparency on how those funds are used. Because there's some of it is really good work with students that don't even know about it, so we can do that.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, and moving on, we have the school board survey, and I just wanna say really quick, so, Lacey, our school board member, has graciously offered to draft up some questions for staff. It's gonna be anonymous, so that we can hear from you without feeling uncomfortable at all. Cause I know we hear from a few of you, but I know it's a lot more. And then the other thing would be the parent piece of it also will be anonymous, so that they can come to us or sort of anonymous. But we want everybody to feel comfortable and be able to share ideas and things that are working well and not working so well. So we're working on that. And then Lacey, do you have any comment, or do you just want to continue working on that?
No, this is just something that, I think you recommended a suggestion box at one point, and so this is kind of a suggestion box for, teachers. So it'll be a survey that'll go out through the email, for you guys.
We'll get the response back to Sophie about that.
Right, it's anonymous, it'll get sent to your email, but it won't say that you're the one, yeah, exactly. We're working on it.
I think, do you have,
Yes, hi, Colleen Seuss, I teach art in the middle school.
okay.
So, just thinking about the grant policy you just recently wrote, I just wanted to make sure, I thought there'd be more grants that we would talk about tonight. Is that it, just the Title I?
That's it for tonight, yeah.
Because I know that there's deadlines for a lot of grants and we need to get them rushed out. We miss them, we miss
Yeah.
that money. Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Did we have other grants on the agenda?
They were removed from the agenda, we have 2 grants that are time sensitive.
But not for the next meeting, all right?
The next meeting is too late.
I thought it was still June.
No, we discussed that over the phone with you and Rhonda and I the other day. We put those on because they are time sensitive. One, the state needs an answer from us this week.
What's that one?
That's the
Social
one.
license. That's for the 250,000, yeah.
Yep, I sent the board that information last week. And the other one is the JSI grant that Mary presented last week. We did receive that award. But if we want to be able to fill that position, you're going to get it posted.
So,
Board report last month, the description, detailed
Yes.
description. And then, we found out on Wednesday, that we were awarded. So it's really good news,
but with the new policy of beginning to accept a grant, we need to have to do that.
So, is everybody comfortable throwing a grant in, tonight? You can add it, Lacey, if you want to. 200, Mary, can you tell her a little bit about what it is?
Yeah, I sent the word information,
Yeah.
so the request right now is just to be able to submit a letter of interest to the state for us to be able to apply for up to $250,000 a year in partnership with the Department of Education, Seacoast Mental Health, to have a full-time Seacoast Mental Health clinician working in the school every day, available to provide direct service to students and liaise with Seacoast Mental Health, and then a full-time behavior support coordinator in the building as well, to work across those schools.
So how's about, me, myself, I am a big advocate for the community, and they said no. So I know we can go search for things, grants to bring in more of what the community said no to. And that's all I'm trying to respect their vote, but it's up to the rest of the board if they wanna do that.
So according to the information I looked, it did say that the assumption would be that those positions down the road would be added into the water bottom line budget. From what I read.
So there's no guarantee of that, it's a
Right.
5-year grant
Right.
from the state.
And we also are in the process right now doing a study, and I'm not sure how that would affect us if we signed off on a grant for 3 to 5 years with, is it in partnership with SAU 21? There's SAU 21 has absolutely nothing to do with it.
Other than the support we provide to help
Right.
you manage it and write
It
it.
should be part of it.
It's not,
Conjunction. And then there's also a 20% match for the budget.
it doesn't have to be budgetary according to the Catherine Leswing from the state. She said that it can be in-kind contributions, which are staff participating in training, their time counts. Staff participating in a meeting, which they already have behavioral support meetings at the school. Staff, Seacoast Mental Health uses an office to be able to meet directly with students. They use our telephone system.
What contributions
Yeah.
I'm
I'm not touching it. I feel like the taxpayers spoke loud and clear, and anything to do with, when they say no, all they're gonna do is infuriate them more. And they say, okay, so you didn't get to do it this way, so now you're gonna come at us this way. And I don't want to look at that way, and I also don't want to be putting positions in that are asking for 20% match. I also don't want to put positions in that are gonna cause it to go in the budget to roll over. They just failed us, the budget failed, it's a scream saying, guys, cut it out.
Well, even if we don't bring it to the budget and we say no, then it's gonna come down to what we just dealt with in election of everyone screaming and fighting because we didn't do what we was seemed to be our thing.
And then we'll pull, we could be pulling out of this at you in 11 short months. And you know what, maybe there'll be other things that we can do and deal with, I'm not saying it for sure, because we just have the committee started. But, if any of you want to make a motion to accept that, you can, and a second, but.
Am I allowed to say something before it's voted on? My name is Andrea Pester. I live at 66 Marshview Circle. I am also a teacher here at Seabrook Middle School. I think a big reason why the social worker was voted out was because of money, not because it's not needed. Whoever on this board thinks that a social worker is not needed in this school is extremely, extremely misinformed. Whether you agree with children talking to a counselor or not, it is needed. Our job, in my opinion, goes way beyond teaching reading, math, writing, social studies, and science. We are parents too. These kids come to this school with so much trauma. And if you have no experience with that and dealing with children on a daily basis that have dealt with trauma in their life, you don't understand what it's like with the decision making that we have to make. We need help. Please give us the help we need to make these kids better academically, socially, and in the community. I am begging you.
stop knocking this down.
I have a question, could it be put in there specifically that if it's in kind, that would be the only way to discuss something like that? Again, I think the big concern is taking money, matching something when we don't have a ton of money, and or rolling things into the budget once it's done.
So what would your recommendation for the possibility of having to cut these people?
Well, that's what I'd like to talk about.
So as of right now, this is, first of all, just a letter of interest, it's non-binding, right? It's to be able to be in the process and potentially get more information. What I was told by the woman at the state is that their understanding is that we don't have to make a cash contribution, so no dollars out of your budget, it can be used in kind. So you already paid for staff time, so some of that time that is focused on supporting children's behaviors in order to help them reach academics, right? These academic goals could be counted as in-kind time. The use of your building, right? Like if they're using an office space, there's a premium, right, that you can use for that. So that's my understanding. And this is a federal grant being flowed through the state, so the state is the applicant, the state would be the recipient. We would be a sub-recipient through the state if we were to be awarded this grant. Every state grant is provided with the understanding that you can't guarantee that positions are going to be rolled into budgets, right? Like the state can't require that. Those decisions are made by local boards at a local level and local communities on an annual basis. You can't commit those dollars 5 years ahead, so it's not binding in that respect at all.
And they can't come back and then say that our in-kind isn't enough, and not imagine it. I guess I'm just.
So it'll be written.
Like some people will act it and they won't give in-kind, correct?
Possibly.
It has to be an option, right?
Given the timing of this application, given that the state is trying to turn this around, it has to be submitted to the federal partner by April 30th. So since budgets have already been adopted, I don't think they're expecting most school districts to be able to put cash into the equation in order to be able to have these positions in place for next year. I think it's largely going to be in kind, but again, this is only the letter of interest point. We would be coming back to you if we were to move forward in the process and to be considered as a sub-recipient, we would come back to you to adopt the grant on those terms.
Okay, so it says the SBMH application has 9 application requirements described below. Applicants must address these requirements in their application. Include non-federal matching funds in the amount of at least 25% of their budget. Budgets must also specify the portion of the funds that will be used for re-specialization, limit on administration costs. It does not say anything in here about in kind. It says, I know what you said, but what is here is the information I'm gonna go by, considering the information we usually receive isn't always accurate, so I have to go by the information you provided for us to consider.
And I'm sharing with you the information that I was provided by the state partner. And again, it's the board's discussion. We bring these forward because I hear repeatedly and I have seen firsthand in the time I've spent in these buildings, the need for students to support their mental health and emotional and behavioral needs is significant. You're never going to improve achievement if you don't address those baseline issues. We're trying to bring money to try to support that. We understand voters voted it down. We know we're making reductions. Teachers don't need less help, they need more.
Right,
so
exactly.
Find a way to do that isn't going to impact taxpayers, but can still provide benefits to children. That's what we're trying to do.
Hopefully we can take some EAs and move them around because the elementary school has 22 EAs, 3 RETs, and middle school has 9 and 1 RET. So hopefully we can try to sort of
So you said the deadline for this is April 30th?
No, we have to respond to the state this week. There are participating partner calls on Thursday and Friday. They need a letter of interest from us.
And then we
And then we would still have the option whether, as the board, whether we would accept it or deny it, correct? This is like just moving forward with the process?
Yeah, and I just wanted to say one thing on that, Patrick, if I could. So, again, I'm hearing all these wonderful, things, right? But how about looking for some scholarships that will help, or grants that will help focus on education? And you said you can't get there until we get here, but I'm gonna tell you something, every other school has the same. Hampton, for instance, they have problems there too. Their tracking of incidents is up there. But yet, I don't hear them constantly saying, it's this to get to there. It can't be, there's gotta be a partnership where it can be evened out. Because I wanna hear more about that piece, how we're gonna do that, and look for some grants. Do what you have grants for teachers.
That's what that is.
Yeah, but it's not what the teachers.
It's a grant to support the teachers.
We just have $150,000 one to
It's an
support that.
interest, you're interested in it, they give you the parameters, you say yes or no. I believe a lot of people sitting over there say yes.
Ability to turn it down if we'd like to.
Absolutely. And when you hire someone and you say, hi, this is a grant, because I've done this.
Right.
This is a grant, you got this job for 3 years, after 3, sorry, you don't have this job. Like, pretty cut and dry with that. So, and in kind means, hi, you get to go to PD, not we're gonna give you money. So, to not at least express a letter of interest is a disservice to the kids in the school.
I make a motion that we move forward with the letter of interest.
I'll second. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Please,
All those against?
Not
Can I have that vote over just again?
We have 3 aye, 1 no, and 1 abstain, because I don't ever vote on anything if I don't have all the information.
Alright, so Marie, you're a no.
I'm an abstention.
You're an abstention.
Right.
Who's the no?
I'm voting no because the information says that we're supposed to require funds.
So I just wanna get this straight when we're voting. This is for a letter of intent only.
We have not accepted.
So I will,
grant. This
so we will
allow
accept a
them-
full go over
What's the-
once we get,
And the application. And the application. The letter of intent is in an application.
The letter of intent is not an application, it's not our application, it's the state's application.
Right.
Just send it to the board and get your letter of interest, so that we all know what we're in. Anything we can get to know is good. Alright, so next is oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that, my apologies, Mrs. Down. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So, do you wanna speak on the grant, how we voted, or how do you wanna do it?
Well, I came up here when they were talking about behavior.
I didn't even see you, I'm sorry.
I've been here for a few minutes, but I want to follow up on what they were speaking about in the school, about behavior and everything.
Yeah.
My name is Madeline Gagnon, and I'm in special education EA, and this is my 14th year here, and this year I'm in the 5th grade. For the last maybe year, when I've been at the school board meetings or listened to them from home, I've heard almost always negativity about the school budget. About the money, about they don't need this, they don't need that. And I'm not surprised that it's in default, that they voted that way, because I heard that all the time, nothing positive from anything, really. And I want to tell you what I experienced every day. The trauma, the anguish that we see in these children. I'm talking 5th grade, every single day. They need to leave, can I go for a walk, can I talk to you? Sure. Every day. They're not thinking about reading. They can't even focus on them. These kids, unfortunately, when they go home, they can't speak, they speak to us. We need to be able to refer them to someone, not send them home like that. They need help, and I don't know, what does it do for us if we listen to these kids and we send them on the bus back to that trauma and anguish every day? They're coming back the same way the next day. They need help. And I'm talking every day. If you followed some of us, for the 6.5 hours or 7 hours with those kids, you go home and you cry, because we cry. We want to love them. They need love. That's what they want. They don't want us to teach them math. They want to look for a walk and they want to explain to us what's going on. And we listen. But then what do we do with that? How do we help them from that? Their parents aren't going to help them. I've heard that a lot. So parents, they don't do anything. Well, these kids would have help if they got help from home. If they had parents that were capable or willing to get them help, I'm sure they would. They're not getting what they need. I just am very discouraged, sorry, but it's too bad.
How you doing? Harold Eaton, 157 Farm Lane. Someone who's involved in town government, I will strongly advise you as board members to go by exactly what is in writing. Somebody can tell you something, but it's what is in writing that matters. They can tell you whatever. Review the paperwork. If it says that in writing, that's what it is. Make no mistake. I graduated from this school. I grew up in this town. I lived here my whole life. This town is no more poorer than it was then. I graduated from this school. We had teachers that showed up, that wanted to teach, and I'm not saying you don't want to teach. If a child wasn't behaving, we weren't allowed to stay in the class. That's what we had principals, vice principals for. That was their job. Your job is to teach. If a child isn't behaving, then the administration in the school needs to step up, because that's their role. So, yes, Maria, I agree with you. Let's look into grants that will give these teachers more support. Let's see if we can bring in more educators. Let's see if we can do that. The town's on a default budget as well right now. But that's not the end of the world. Things will continue. You have all the operating costs that you need here, now. You have all the tools that you need here, now. You can work with those. Follow by what is in writing. You cannot go wrong. Don't go by someone's word. And put the education of these students first. Because those are your future school board members, your future board of selectmen members, your future coming in generations that need to be educated. They need to go to Winnicott. They need to have the same opportunities as Hampton Falls, Northampton, and Southampton. So get together with the curriculum director and say, whatever Hampton Falls students are learning, that's what we want our students to learn. Start from kindergarten and work your way all the way up into 8th grade. That way you give them the opportunity to be successful. This is a school. Unfortunately, this is for educating children, period. That's what the focus needs to be. And I do thank you, because now you're asking questions. I do applaud this board, because now you're pushing back and you're not going along with the status quo. And I thank you for that. And I just want you to put education first.
Thank you, Harold. I agree 100%. So, let's see. So we're gonna close public comment at this time. Can I have a, okay, it's closed as of, 6:30. Yep. All right, and then, let's see, so that, all right, so, FY 25 preschool. Okay. Expenditure approval. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you again. Gotta go like this, I guess. I didn't see you in there.
All right, so we wanted to provide you with an update on our preschool, what's going on in our plans for 2022 and 2025. So as we work to connect with families with young children, we are meeting more children, and that's a good thing, because we know these early years are the brain building years, and we want to take every opportunity we can to have, give those kids more positive experiences so they get a strong foundation for future academic success. So this means that we've met more children, and we have more children in our referral process. We've met more children who have identified special needs, or at least are being referred to evaluate them for their eligibility for special education services. We've also, sorry, we have a PowerPoint, but it's okay. Should I keep going, or do you? But we've also seen an increase in the number of families with typically developing children who are interested in preschool and aware that we have this preschool and want to attend. So in order to make sure that we can continue to meet the needs of all of our children with IEPs and provide some preschool experience for as many typically developing children in Seabrook as we can, we have to adjust the structure of our preschool program to meet the community needs for next year. So our plan is that there won't be a change for the IEP students because those students have an IEP team that decides on their goals and their programs and the services that they'll receive, and that will continue to happen. But the students who are typically developing peers, we're going to offer them preschool 2 days a week for 3 and 4-year-olds. And that means that we can accept about 20 children into the preschool program instead of 9 or 10 that would be returning. So actually, one of those slides would have been helpful. So we just have this enrollment now that we can't keep our structure exactly as it is to be able to get all these kids some preschool experiences this next year. We also will continue to work with our partners like the library and the rec center. Waterford Upstart provides an online program for 4-year-olds that we can support families with. So we want to keep supporting families and having as much of those positive learning experiences in the early years as they can. So yeah, this is what we're looking at right now. We have 19 new students and 9 returning peers, 10 current students with IEPs, and 11 are in the referral process. So we're looking at starting the year with 49 students. So changing it to typical peers coming 2 days a week, I kind of said all this, so you can skip ahead to the next one, allows us to accomplish these important goals. We meet all the needs of the students with IEPs, and we save space so that throughout the year, if we need more children with identified needs, then we can bring them into the program. It also allows us to provide access to preschool for more children in Seabrook. In fact, everyone who signed up, we did an enrollment in March, would have a spot in our preschool. And then thirdly, it gives us class sizes that are small enough to allow for individualized attention. And also we have balanced classes. So children with special needs and those without identified needs are working and learning and playing together. So we feel like given the interest and the needs that we've seen in our families with preschoolers, that this plan makes the most sense for next year.
Is this something that we're voting on, or is this something that is done?
I think this is informational.
Just informational?
At this point, we have a lot of families who are interested in making plans for next year, so we need to roll this out so they know what their child care will be.
So I have a couple questions. So my kids did the preschool program as the typical kids, or they called them leaders back then. My concern is that this is actually going to harm the kids that need the IEPs. I'm just concerned that, so 4 days, say we're talking about 3-year-olds, the 3-year-old program, 4 days a week is all the kids that have special needs, IEPs, are gonna go all 4 days. And then you're taking group A, and it's gonna be Monday and Tuesday, and then group B will be Thursday and Friday. That's not gonna disrupt the kids that this program is essentially designed for the kids that have the special needs.
So it's going to be Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, so that the students will have consistency. But you know what this is telling us is that our kindergarten and our preschool numbers are growing so much that, in order, as we're thinking down the road, what this really telling us, so we're probably going to need an additional preschool teacher in years to come to service.
So, yeah, but is the preschool required though?
For special ed, it is.
For special ed, but not for typical students. I don't like to say for typical.
I know, there's no.
Right, I know, but it's not required for typical
To your
special
point
needs.
about the disruption part, I think that the teachers have classroom routines and they follow those same routines every day. So if the child comes on, for all the kids that are 4 days a week, it will be the same routine, they have they have their welcome circle, and they, so I think that teachers know how to do that, how to provide that sort of safety and structure, and so, they'll meet different peers on different days, that is true.
And what we've found with our research in the last few years is even the students that come in as role models with peers, they're entering far behind as well. So any exposure to preschool helps everybody here and learn.
It also would be role model kids, it helps down the line. I know both of my kids, when I was in the preschool program, I think role model sounds better than typical. In that role, and they saw a lot of the IEP kids from an early age, you guys know, from nonverbal all the way up to just maybe having certain issues, and I think that helped some of the role model kids learn a little bit more kind understanding, a little bit more patience, and I know we can't do it with everybody, but I know that my kids 100% benefited from being in that position.
So, is there still, is there still going to be an application process for the role model children or the typical children that, I know when my children went, they had to meet with the teachers, they were tested to make sure that they did not have special needs so that they were considered a typical kid instead of, going in as a typical kid and then realizing that all these children might have special needs that require more time, attention, and money.
Yeah, not in the sense that students will be excluded. So it'll be typically when kindergartners come in, we screen and we play students to balance the classrooms out. So it'll be more like a screening rather than keeping kiddos out at this point. But we will probably get to a point where we'll have to have a wait list because what we're allowed to do right now with the numbers is bringing everybody that's signed up so far. But eventually we'll get to a number that we'll have to create a wait list.
Okay, so how many kids, you talk about class sizes, how many kids are allowed in the class per teacher? Because I know there's a teacher and then there's an EA. 12.
Yeah.
But that would be the maximum. We're not going to start the year with 12 because we have to reserve some spaces for anyone new who's identified as having special needs or someone new who moves in. So we're not going to start the year with 12. It'll be more like 9, maybe 9 in class.
You may have students age in, so students whose birthday happens in the middle of the school year will age in. We have to provide services, so we have to keep it all in there.
So do you think children being there 2 days a week is going to prepare them for kindergarten versus the other children being there for 4 days a week? Not at all. I see someone nodding their head, but like
you wish
where you have the two groups or two instead of just one group and telling other parents like, hey, sorry, we can't accommodate you this year on the wait list or.
What's catch-22 because then you have kids who don't have access to anything. Right? They may have to go elsewhere. So what this does is allow us to serve more students. And one of the things that we didn't mention is 1 day a week we also offer a play group, which majority of our families come. So for those 2 day a week folks, there would be a free, basically that third day of Wednesday has a play group, which is additional support for families. And we do have partnerships with the library who does reading groups, and so our goal really is to make sure that every kiddo in Seabrook who needs access to the school has access to the school.
So what are we doing with transportation? Does that mean that we're going to be cutting transportation for role model students because we're not going to have enough transportation? Do we have enough to transport everyone?
Transportation needs different every year based on parent needs. So this year we were able to accommodate most families. We have priority goes to special ed, to students with IEPs. And then if we have extra room, we've given parents we have an extra seat, so we bring them on the bus. But our goal really is to get kids here. So if it's a barrier, we oftentimes get them on the bus. But it's not guaranteed for non-IEPs.
Will any additional staff need to be hired, or is this just going to run the same program with the same teachers, just different kind of structure?
So it all depends on the students that come in. We may have a student who comes in and needs a one-on-one that can be unexpected, but we're moving into the year with the same staff. I can tell you that our program is growing, and we will probably be back to the board, whether it's through the next budget process, to add a preschool, and a preschool is growing. And It's great, it's good to see all the kids on our street.
Alright.
Thank you, my question.
So the next thing is gonna be expenditure approved.
Let's just, we put it on the standing item after your motion at the last meeting.
Okay. The assistant principal search, for the Seabrook Middle School.
So the position's been posted, Tony will form a committee and conduct interviews, and we hope to bring a nomination to you as soon as we can.
And, yeah, and with that said, I know a few years ago I sat on the, principal, research. Question though, reaching out to who to make sure that people that are interested, come forward and not just handpick, because sometimes you don't get the best group. If you put it out there, then you can, have a bigger group to pick from. But I think, moving forward, and back in the day when I was on the board, the top 3 of anything came in front of the board. Top 3 assistant principal picks when you're kind of toward the end of the process. We have in this room, the board has spent time asking questions to principals or assistant principals that were coming to be hired for our school, and I found it to be really, really helpful. And I think those people stayed around some of them maybe 5 or 6 years, and we're not seeing that. The trend in people leaving, coming and going here has just been crazy, and that's really important that we start to sustain. So I don't know how the board feels about it, but I would like to have a motion that we see the top 3 applicants and that we also participate, especially given where the school is right now, in the administrators hiring of our buildings.
I don't think it would hurt if you saw all of them, to be honest with you.
All the applications? That's fine, I'll put that out there too.
And just a reminder, I think that was also prior to having board members at the table during the interview process. Do we know who? As part of the
Wait
meeting?
till we just get to we take a vote and then, because public comments.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, so, motion
Two
to,
more questions on what is the hiring process currently?
So Cody's been here about 5 minutes. We have had.
As long as I get home by the game. As long as I get home by the game.
True. So we have had board members participate. Brian led assistant principal hiring for Seabrook Elementary School. There was board member invited to participate on that committee. We had a board member participate on principal hiring when we did that, and then I bring a nomination to the board. That's how the process has worked.
So when I had to hire my assistant principals, because I was pretty fortunate, I had 3 with 600 kids. So I was a very lucky lady. We put it out to the staff. Anybody's interested in being on the committee, I welcome you. I had a student, and quite honestly, the 2 students I had asked tougher questions than, don't forget me, the adults. And the guy was sweating by the end of it. He's like, that was hard. I invited parents. We kind of kept it at a reasonable size so that it didn't get too crazy. Right now we have 5 applicants as of today. They kept pinging over the weekend, so I guess everybody was active. So we would give the resumes to everybody on the committee. We would screen them. We would look at, their qualities. We would look, first they would decide, what are the qualities you're looking for in an assistant principal, and they would kind of list that. We would go through the applications, and then we would invite them in to have the conversation and an interview, and then we would narrow it down to 2. However you do it here is fine with me. And then those 2 are interviewed with the superintendent. That was a little different. And then we put our recommendation forward, and she either said yes or no. So this process here is different for me, so I'm open to whatever suggestions you have. I don't know if that. And then we also came up with common questions we would ask. So we would ask a question about curriculum and instruction, parent engagement, kind of like all the categories that you're rated on when you're evaluated, and other questions that students, because they're the ones that are going to have to, interface with.
And everyone gets the same, it's like any other interview process.
Everybody
It
gets
has
the
to be
same.
the same list of questions.
We have
to
our
be fair to
rubric,
everybody.
we rate them at the end, everybody rates them, and we collate all the ratings, and then we say, based on the ratings, here's the 2 names we want to put forward. We feel like that is the best candidate for Seabrook Middle School, so.
I
I'm not
agree
sure
with
that
everything
anything
that
will-
you said, and I've heard that, but I also think that instead of stopping at the superintendent's office, those recommendations should come in front of us, be given.
Oh, yeah,
And you know what, in a
absolutely.
great sunny day where we were doing everything great, and we're keeping all of you here, and we're not having issues of people leaving so often, I would say great, but we've gotta get involved.
I'm
a
just
little bit.
explaining
No,
our
that's the
process.
process.
I'm trying
I
to-
love it. So I was just looking for a little more board, and I'm gonna share, I was a person on a hiring committee, and I'm not gonna say specifics, but the people we interviewed and spent, your wife was on the committee with me, we spent hours, interviewing as a community going through, and a month later, we found out the people that we interviewed were not picked, it was somebody that we never even met with, so I don't wanna see that happen anymore. So I think if we put that extra layer of the board in, it's not gonna ever happen again.
So can you clarify that for me?
I don't really wanna go into detail to.
No, I don't need that, I don't need to know, I don't wanna know anything about what happened in the past. I'm just talking about right now.
Yeah.
Are you asking?
So the top 2 she had, right, she said she comes to what you usually do, your top 2 people go to the superintendent. I would love to see those top 2 people come to us for maybe a few update questions, feel it out, we're the community right here, and make sure that we're getting the right person this time around, because I want him to stay. I want him to be here and be part of it for a little bit. Yeah, and it's good for that, and it's for everybody. the
So I guess
kids,
my
the staff.
question is, you don't wanna be on the committee, you wanna be the last stop, is that what I'm hearing you saying? So we will interview, we will give you 2 candidates,
Yeah.
although Kelly said she wants all of them, so just
Yeah.
trying to figure out, how many people do you want? So if 6 people apply, and then we interview all 6 of them, and then we get down to 3, you wanna interview them additionally, is that what you're saying?
We meet with them, ask a few questions, and let them, go on their merry way, but at least be a part of, and I know we might have somebody on the actual process all the way up until then, but I think at the end of it, when you guys come up with who you think is the best fit, that we also then give the seal of
If
approval.
we're gonna be the last, quote unquote, line of defense, having somebody sit on the board, on the hiring board is like the Department of Redundancy. Like, we have to, then you have a bias, you could potentially have a biased board member on it. And if they wanna form the community, with the community members, the schools, the staff, the SAU, we'll take, I say the top 2. That the committee has agreed upon, and we bring top 2 to the board. We have our quick 15-minute or so interview with each person, review the documentation, we give our recommendation after that, and that's, I think that has enough reasons to the onion there, but having a board member sit there through all of it, and then come and sit through this part, I just don't think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, that makes sense to me, but can I recommend 3, just because we need 2 kind of narrows it down. If you want to-
Three's always a good number.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah. All right, so do we need?
Just to be clear, because I want to make sure there's no confusion at the
Okay.
end, it's still the superintendent's responsibility to make a nomination to the board.
Correct. Okay.
I just want to make sure you understand.
But we can
that
always
piece.
approve her time.
You can?
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
So we're gonna have a little more, involved in that given the situation. So, okay, so do we need a motion on that?
Make a motion that is a committee formed, and that once interviewing process is completed, that the top 3 applicants be presented to the board. And then we interview them.
Yeah, little quick questions that we can come up with, and then like Pat said, a little small piece of it. And, so we have a second? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, so thank you on that. And, principal, so personnel, should we be going into non-public, right?
Do you want to do the future meetings?
Huh?
Do we want to announce the future meetings?
Sure, go right ahead.
SA 21 Joint Board Committee meeting Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. Seabrook School Board meeting Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. And SA 21 Operation Committee meeting Tuesday, May 7th, 2024.
All right, motion to go into non-public?
Okay, so there's a motion to go into non-public on RSA 91-8, 8.2, and this is 8A through M, which we usually have a specification in the recommended action.
That's A scale.
Yes, I do.
Second.
Alright, roll call, all in favor, roll call. Aye.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll leave Lacey.
Who made the motion?
Kelly.
Kelly.
Second.
Kelly and Jennifer.
Yeah. Roll call is Lacey.
Lacey, yes.
Kelly? Yes. Marie, yes. Chad?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, thank you. Everybody have a good night, thank you.